Yes, welcome to Cyber Safety Net Stay Safe Online, episode 166. How MGM Resorts Got Ransomware. Yes, you heard that right. There's a big story these days in September 2023. How MGM Resorts got ransomware. MGM Resorts is a big hotel chain, very prominent in Las Vegas, but they have properties throughout the world. My name is Mark Anthony Germanos. I will be the presenter today. There is a social element with this. When I say social element, I mean that the attackers use social engineering to gain access into MGM's network. And it's been a very bad week for MGM. It could be a very bad month or a very bad quarter for them. Little background on me. I am a certified ethical hacker. What does an ethical hacker do, you may say? An ethical hacker goes into a network and audits the security or lack of security. I've seen a lot. And then works with the decision makers to remediate or fix the biggest vulnerabilities. It's kind of like bringing in the fire department. You bring the fire department to tell you where a fire would probably break out if you had a fire in your office, while bringing in an ethical hacker has the same justification. We tell you where you would probably get the hacker coming in under the current situation. Today's presentation is sponsored by my fourth book, How Hacks Happen. In How Hacks Happen, there are two personas. There's me, Mark, the good guy, who wants to protect you. And there's Brad Cracker, the bad guy, who wants to rip you off. Brad says, "Hey man, I'm good at hacking. Hacking is easy, and I like the easy money." And that is Brad Cracker's view of the world. Back in episode 102, I introduced the CIA triad. And since we're talking about guests at these MGM hotels, including my favorite, the Luxor Pyramid in Vegas, not being able to check in, not being able to check out, and not being able to use their room keys to open the doors, I think we are in the availability domain today. How awful. You fly into a town to go to a convention, you can't check in, and if you had already checked in, then your key card doesn't open the door. Purely awful. There are a lot of people talking about this MGM hack. And from what I found is that a lot of these different people commenting on it are going back to just a few different authoritative sources. The source that I'm about to quote in the next slide is EngageNet. They seem much more authoritative than most. And here's a quote from EngageNet. I don't read slides verbatim too often, but I'm going to do that right now. From EngageNet, we learn the attacker claims to have used common social engineering tactics or gaining trust from employees to get inside information to try and get a ransom out of MGM Resorts. All ALPHV ransomware group did to compromise MGM Resorts was hop on LinkedIn, find an employee, then call the help desk. ALPHV is the ransomware group behind this attack. There's a social element. As I read this, I thought, okay, here's probably what happened. The attacker group went on LinkedIn. They found 10 or 20 people who work for MGM. Then they determined who probably worked from home a lot. Therefore, they needed some remote access solution. Then they called the help desk and asked how they get remote access. What is the DNS name of the remote access server or servers? Or what is the IP address of the usual target or destination? And in a future call, they may have said, I lost my password to get in. My name is Joe Smith. I have my passwords to my phone, but I dropped my phone in the swimming pool. It doesn't work anymore. Can you reset my password? And apparently somebody at the help desk of MGM fell for the bait. That is how ALPHV got into the MGM network and then made it so people cannot check in, cannot check out, and cannot use their room keys to open doors. Pretty scary. It may be a matter of time before we learn everything that MGM wants us to know, because sometimes targets or victims are hesitant to share everything they have learned. Either they don't want to let the attacker know what they did that was successful, and they don't want to present information that embarrasses their weaknesses. So can't rush to judgment on this one. If you get ransomware on a workstation or a server, you have a big decision. Do you preserve the evidence, or do you wipe the drive? Meaning you go and get your Windows installed DVD, you install Windows, you install your apps, you install your virus protection, then you restore your data and you get back in business. Two options: preserve evidence or wipe. I am in the camp of preserve evidence because you got a crime scene. You may have forensic examiners from an insurance company or a police department coming in and asking you for evidence. In that case, what you do is you duplicate the native drive. You have a drive on your server, duplicate that, and give the duplicate to the forensic examiners from the insurance company or the police department. Keep the original as evidence because you may need to duplicate it again. And of course, keep it somewhere on the side and label it. Put it in an evidence bag. Then what you do is you get another drive, you install that into your workstation or server, and install Windows onto that drive. You're running a business, you need to get back up and running. On this replacement drive, you install Windows, then install your apps, then your virus protection, then restore data from backups. Then you get back in business. This is a completely new drive. Drives are not that expensive these days. So you really don't have an excuse for not buying another drive, slapping it in there, and then rebuilding that workstation. Armed with this information, let me ask again, what would you do? Would you preserve data because you got a crime scene, or would you just wipe it and get back up and running? My view is preserve the data. I know your time is valuable. I know there are other places you could have been, but you chose to be here. You chose to listen to me, Mark Anthony Germanos, tell you that you need to preserve data if you have ransomware or malware. And of course, if you're big like MGM, then you have a big cleanup project to do, especially if you decide not to pay the ransom. Mark Anthony Germanos, thank you for watching. Good day, everybody.